Okay. So what I want to talk about is something where, honestly, I did a video about this. I don't know if you saw this earlier in the week, where I talked about how the Lions have one unit that is borderline elite right now, and that was the run defense. And we just held the Atlanta Falcons, who were one of the best, if not the best team on the ground this year, to 44 yards on 20 carries. That's insanity, man. What happened?
It's crazy because my thought this whole game was don't let him pop the big one, right? Just don't. And that was what was frustrating for us against Seattle was we bottled that run game up, and yet the play action still, that whole thing, that play action still killed us. So to go against this team where Bijan, you can see it. I mean, boy, that guy's just like Twitchville, ready to
my goodness,
power twitch, like, oh my gosh. And he just, nothing could get going. And even their second back's a power back, but it's hard to
look at. For sure.
Yep. We're in our gaps. We've got good tackling and we're there. And so what are you seeing from the run defense? I mean, it's hard. It looks like we're going to get popped on as well. Maybe that's just my
I think that's just because you're used to it.
Yeah, exactly.
I honestly do. I think that's what it is. So I see a couple of different things. I see three things. The defensive line is holding to their assignments in the run game. And part of that is why I think before this game, there weren't as many sacks, because I think we were almost playing it that way. So the D-line is holding to their positions. The linebackers are better. They're just better. Barnes is playing so much better. I mean, Campbell barely saw the field this game because of how good Barnes and Rodrigo were playing. By the way, it was funny to watch Rodrigo just bounce off Bijan like a ping pong ball in that early in the game.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was nuts. But then here's what my thought is the biggest difference is: you now have a guy playing the nickel corner that is almost like another linebacker playing in Brian Branch. Love what he does against the pass. Love what he does. His coverage, his run defense is remarkable. He was everywhere.
You nailed it. There was quite a few formations where we have four linebackers, and a couple times it caught me because I'm like, oh, sweet, why do we have all four linebackers out? Or I kind of like this, or I'm just kind of curious. But it's like, no, we didn't have four linebackers out. We have Brian Branch just lined up at linebacker because he's on the tight end, but he's sitting right there. And man, he darted in a couple times. And what happens? He darts in and makes the tackle. How many times did you last year, whoever, name the player that darts in, runs past the play? It's so hard. You're going a million miles an hour, but Brian Branch, you nailed it, man. He gives us the ability to play the pass, you basically have this hybrid. That's exactly what he is. He's a hybrid linebacker, can play the pass.
Safety corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teams don't have that. So now you have two linebackers. It's like, no, we have three linebackers. Oh, you have three linebackers? We have one less secondary guy. Actually, we have him too.
Actually, we don't. Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
And this is where, and I was getting frustrated in the game because I felt like in the beginning of the game, we're caught in between, meaning we're not blitzing, but we're also not playing man, but it's like, do something. I think Aaron Glenn is saying, I'm going to stick to our lanes, just like what you said. I'm playing 4 down linemen. I got our linebackers. We're going to stop the run. Now, if that means we give up some passes, so be it. And now it just so happens Atlanta or Seahawks tore us up, but we're not going to do exotic blitzing. We're just not going to do it because we're going to stop the run. And you nailed it. It's because of Branch.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing too. What was so nice is you saw what started happening was the run game just wasn't going. So the team that is the most committed to running in the NFL, the Atlanta Falcons, like last year, so far this year, they are the most committed team to running in the NFL. They had to abandon the run. And when they abandoned the run and they became one-dimensional, 7 sacks. 7 sacks. Huge. And that is what happens. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, floodgates are open. Thank you. We made up for the first 2 games where we weren't getting home. And there was a stat I was reading as we're talking about this. There's a stat that I was reading where it was talking about how we had like the 8th best pressure rate in the NFL. And I was like, nope, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Get out of here.
Because I'm watching the games and I don't see the quarterbacks under pressure. I don't. And I don't know what happened. Our defensive linemen look faster. Ritter, who's not slow, was unable to get away from the pressure. It was just everybody did their job. It wasn't just Hutchinson. And you saw what happens when everybody does their job. Hutchinson still gets a sack and then a sack fumble, but then everybody else gets some work. Charles Harris gets a sack. Derek Barnes gets a sack.
Yeah.
McNeil gets a sack. Campbell gets a sack, right?
That was
Who
great
am I missing? I don't want to miss anybody. Benito Jones with the first sack. Let's go, Benito. Let's go. How neato, gang.
Benito, the defensive line just played. That's what we were looking for, right?
Wow.
That is way better than obviously than what you could even imagine when you get that many sacks. But do you have a little bit of pressure? Do you have ability to get in there? And then we just, man, and we did everything else. So when you can stop the run and then you stop the run, these are just like little things that are just you take for granted. Stop the run. You can punt the ball like a mother. We can punt the ball and flip field like crazy. I know that's a random one, but and then the other one, what was the other one I had? But there's a couple different things that if you just do that. Oh, and then we just Dan Campbell, thank you. He read the game. We're stopping the run. The Atlanta Falcons are having a hard time moving the ball, so he punted. He played the game correctly.
Multiple punts.
Kicked field goals, and it was like,
yeah,
thank you. It felt very appropriate to just play the game right this week and get back level set, play the long game because we are down starters.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt this one was a much needed victory. It felt good.
Yeah, and I know we'll talk about this later, but doesn't it feel like this is just what good teams do?
Mm-hmm.
After they beat a good team, they have a hard loss at home, and then they come back and they just really just manhandle and dominate the opponent, who's not a bad team, but they're a lesser opponent.
That's right.